Talk Miami Hurricane recruiting as they are in the running for another number one player at his position. We already have Jackson Cantwell on board as a Cane. Now they're trying to flip wide receiver Tristan Keys from LSU. Steve, he's going to be on campus this weekend. Can they do it?
Yeah, Miami is the dark horse for On3's number one ranked recruiting class. You have LSU leading the pack right now. They're the favorite, obviously. Then you have USC in the equation, but Ohio State in the number 3 slot is an interesting program to keep an eye on for the number one ranked recruiting class. But Miami in the back of the top 10 right now, they land Jackson Cantwell. If they can hit big on some of the targets visiting this weekend, they can make a run for number one. Tristan Keys headlines that list, number 3 player overall per the On3 industry. This is his 3rd time in Coral Gables this calendar year. Him and his family have loved the prior 2 experiences, the vibe around campus, Coach Cristobal and the energy he brings to the program, Kevin Beard, the wide receivers coach, and the way he's been able to develop wideouts, and then the offense, number 1 passing offense in the country this past year, the explosive playmaking ability wide receivers have at Miami. And then again, what the Hurricanes bring off the field from an NIL opportunity standpoint, they are right there for Tristan Keys, who was back at LSU this past weekend, going to take his last official visit of the summer to LSU. He still says it's going to take a lot to flip him from the Tigers, but Miami is one of the programs that I think is right there in the middle of it to do so. Tennessee swinging, Alabama swinging, the Aggies are still in there. Auburn with the Deuce Knight, Mississippi connection still battling. But Miami, 3rd visit this calendar year. You cannot sleep on the U for Tristan Keys moving forward.
All right, speaking of another battle, let's talk about elite running back Derek Cooper, who's from South Florida. But, Steve, all offseason, he's been taking a lot of visits out of state. So where do things stand as Derek Cooper is expected back in Coral Gables this weekend?
Well, this recruitment is one of the marathons of the 2026 cycle, but Miami is equipped to run this race. They got the right shoes, they got the right energy, the right juice, and they're going to be there. Look, Georgia, Ohio State, 2 of the other front runners for Derek Cooper, had a great official visit to Auburn a couple weekends ago, but Miami, this is one of their most coveted targets regardless of position. And they're going to remind him this weekend of all the South Florida greats that have played that position at Miami. And if you look at their depth chart right now, it is Florida guys flourishing in the running back room right now at Miami.
Yeah.
So I think, look, Miami's the slight On3 RPM favorite. I like that right now going in to the official visits. There were times where I liked Georgia in this recruitment. I certainly am not sleeping on the Buckeyes, but Miami fully vested, all in on Derek Cooper.
2 more 5 stars we got to hit on. Lamar Brown, big-time defensive lineman, and also Anthony Tank Jones coming off the edge. Where does Miami stand with these 5 stars?
Well, I think for Lamar Brown, they're a dark horse trying to make a move on Texas A&M and LSU. The On3 RPM favors LSU right now, including my prediction. I think around South Florida, the vibe is A&M might have the edge here. But Miami looking to make a move for Lamar Brown this weekend, one of their most coveted targets at the defensive line position on the board this cycle. I think he's going to have a great visit, so we'll see where that buzz sits after a weekend in South Florida. And then Tank Jones, I think that Miami is very much one of the favorites in this recruitment. Alabama and Auburn have certainly had a lot of buzz, maybe a slight bit more to Alabama. Oregon and Texas A&M also in it, but Miami very much in the race, looking to make another move this weekend for Tank Jones.
All right, Steve, it's going to be a big weekend. So who else are you fired up about down in Coral Gables?
Well, there's so much talent that's going to be at Miami this weekend. On 300 receiver Messiah Hampton, the number 1 ranked recruit from New York. I would give Oregon the edge coming into the visit, but Miami's probably in the 2-hole. Can they flip that? Keyshawn Stansel, an on 300 defensive lineman, as Miami in the top 4. Samarian Wingo's a 4-star in-state receiver. If they're pushing for him, I think Miami could be tough to beat. They're looking to change the tide with 4-star linebacker Malik Morris, who is predicted to Florida on the On3 RPM, but I think folks around Miami feel like they have a good shot there. They're working to flip 4-star defensive back Brody Jennings from Michigan. His sister runs track for the Hurricanes. They're definitely one of the front runners in that recruitment. Zach Turner from Duncanville High in Texas is coming to campus. Miami just got on defensive lineman Anthony Kennedy, a decommitment from Missouri. Tamarian Watkins is a defensive player that they're in the middle of it for. They're taking their swing at Samari Matthews this weekend. So Miami coming out the gate, starting summer with some of the best prospects in America, visiting campus. They have a shot to finish with the number one ranked recruiting class, but they're going to need to hit on some of these elite guys this weekend to get there.